Hello, my name is Jacob Monk. Welcome to this short video about a very important question for me and probably for a lot of other people living here in Europe and not at least in Denmark, Copenhagen, where I'm placed myself. The question is, who is going to win? You know, Denmark, it's a very tiny state. We don't have a lot of money, we don't have a lot of people, we don't have a lot of industry. We are small and we are quite dependent on other bigger states. We are not able to transform world politics. We are not able to support ourselves, not in a military way, not in an economical way, not in any way at all. We are totally dependent on other bigger countries, and the policy in Denmark has for around 100 years been we always support the strongest country we can unite with. Once the Danish politicians believed that France would be the strongest country, and Denmark supported France. Well, that's changed. Before the Second World War, the Danish government believed that Germany would be the strongest government. Well, Denmark supported Germany. After Second World War, and now 2019, we believe that USA is the strongest country. So therefore we support USA, and we ask them, well, please support us, buy our goods and help us with everything. We are kind of a US colony and we do not really have any choice to be anything else because we are so small. We just have to be dependent on bigger and stronger countries. But now back to the question, who is going to win? Who is going to be the strongest country in the future? And there I'm quite sure I've got the answer. The current state of affairs is not going to continue. At the moment, USA is the strongest state in the world, and that is basically founded in the fact that they have the biggest and the strongest military in the world. USA used 10 times as much money on weapons as they do in Russia, many more times than they do in China, and many more times than they do in any other country or continent, for example, Europe. Well, USA uses so much money for military that they can control a lot of the world. They have around 800 military bases all around the globe, and they have very big amounts of very modern and dangerous weapons. So maybe Denmark is a wise country why we are supporting the USA, because we do not have any other choice. But in the future this will change, because USA is only being nation number one for a limited time from now on. At the moment, USA and China has about the same GDP, but China has 4 times as many citizens as USA. China used 3 times as much money for research and development. They have 4 times as many scientific engineers and scientific researchers developing the Chinese technology. And therefore China has been able to do a miracle in the last 30 years. They have brought maybe around 500 million people out of poverty, from poverty to non-poverty. They have created a middle class in China. So today China is not a third world country. You know, 30 years ago, China and India had the same economic level. Now China is 4 times as high as India. China equals USA, and in the future China will be not a shared 1 or 2nd place. No, China will be number 1, and USA will be probably number 2. I'm not quite sure. It depends on what will happen. You can see here the illustration I found on the internet, the development of GDP in China and USA compared. You can see around 2018-19, these two lines, they're crossing each other. So the red line, the line being a measurement of the GDP, the total production value of China, it will be higher than the total production value of USA. This happens around today, around the time we are living in now. And in 5 or 10 years, even more, in 15, 20 years, China will be much ahead of USA. That means that China will have a higher standard of living, a better technology, probably also a better military, and the Chinese politics will probably have succeeded, maybe not in all of the world, but in most of the world. So let's try to see what are the secrets behind the success of China. First, as I've written here, is the size. China has the biggest size of any country, 1.4 billion people. USA has 300 million. That is only 25% as much people. And the educational level in USA is already lower today than it is in China. And in the future, the Chinese level will be even higher compared to USA. Reason number 2 is the political system, the state structure. In China, they have an autocratic state, I would say a Leninist state, built upon the Leninist principles developed by Vladimir Ulyanov Lenin in the 1920s, and first of all being put into practice in the Soviet Union. Well, Soviet Union is not existing anymore, but this idea of a party, a democratic party based on Marxist philosophy running the country, well, it is a highly effective way of running a state. It is democracy. In the Chinese constitution, it's very clear that China is a democracy, but it is not a parliamentary democracy, not building on the Frenchman Montesquieu, the thoughts of this Frenchman, not building on parliamentarism like most European countries, including my own country, Denmark, is building on. And that is why China is able to make planning for a long time. They can't do that in USA. You can't even make one single agreement with the current president of USA. It is called Donald Trump, because you don't know if the coming president, and he will probably not be called Donald Trump, maybe he will be re-elected, but then only one time. Then there will come another president, maybe a Democrat or someone else. Well, that means you can't trust the agreements you make with an American president. You see that very clear when it comes to the Iran deal about Iran and nuclear weapons. Well, this was signed by the former American president, but now Donald Trump say, I don't care. So it's not worthwhile planning with an American president, because USA is not a trustworthy partner when it comes to politics, when it comes to military, when it comes to business and economy. So China has a much better state structure that can create continuity when it comes to economy. They can create long-term planning that is very important when it comes to infrastructure and military. And they have the ability to unite the Chinese people about building their own society in a way that benefits most of the Chinese people. That is why the current president and the government in China, they have such a huge support in their own country. Compared to USA, the president in USA, President Trump, he don't even have 50% of the American voters behind him. So he's a very weak president. Reason number 3, China will succeed and USA will not succeed, is moral. In China, they have a high working moral because they are proud to work. They think they are benefiting their own country. They want their country to be successful. It's an old civilization, several thousand years old, maybe 5,000 years old. And they have always had to work together under a somehow autocratic government. The Chinese emperors has never had any kind of parliamentary democracy. So of course China do not want to have a parliamentary democracy in the future. They want to continue a one-party democracy government as the one they have now. This is what Lenin made the plan for. He called it democratic centralism, this state structure, and it is highly effective. They have the same state structure in, for example, Vietnam, in Cuba, and in some other states around the world. Most smaller states. In Soviet Union, that is not existing anymore. They have changed the system to some kind of parliamentary system. And that is the problem. Therefore, you cannot be quite sure that Russia will continue with the same leadership they have now also in the future. Really, no one knows. Well, back to China. They had a high level of working ethics. Now comes the question of IQ. It's a basic scientific facts when it comes to psychology that they have a higher IQ in average in Asia than we have in Europe and in USA. Well, this is not because I'm a racist. I'm not a racist at all. I only refer to scientific reviews that has been made in the last 50 years. There has been made a lot of scientific studies and wrote articles and books about this question of IQ, that is intelligence. And it is a fact that the Asians are, as average, more intelligent than USA citizens and Europeans. And therefore, they have a better possibility of creating a successful economy. 5, China has a moral consensus that is keeping the Chinese people together. They are very proud of their country. They are united around their government. They are very much against the enemies of China. And they want to make China a good place to live with a high political ethics. So ethic is a very important thing in China. And in the last end, it is the ethics that keeps the Chinese together. When you talk about Confucianism, well, basically Confucianism is an ethical religion and ethical spirituality or philosophy. It is the idea that you have to take care of yourself, you have to help your fellow human beings, you have to educate yourself, you have to be a civilized person, you have to contribute to your own country's development and economical future, and of course also economical growth. And this is the reason why the growth of economy in China is unheard of when it comes to history. You can't find any other single nation in the world that has ever developed that fast as China has developed on the basis of the factors that I'm mentioning here in this video. And last but not least, I'll say the Chinese strategy of development is a reason for the Chinese success. And in the future, I suppose they will have even more success. The basic strategic Chinese development philosophy is called Belt and Road. It is the idea that you do not have to control the whole world with military bases. This is the American philosophy. You have to threaten all people that do not like you. You can kill, you can bomb, you can do whatever you want because no international rule goes for you. You are just like, an elephant in a toy shop. You can walk around and destroy everything. No one can do anything to you. Well, this is not Chinese philosophy. The Chinese philosophy is that we have to be friends with our neighbors, friends with the other countries in the world, and we want to help them to build infrastructure, to railroads, air traffic, roads, harbors, ships, everything that benefits a country when it comes to economic development, everything China can help with. Not as some kind of free help. It's not because these countries get everything free from China, not at all. They have to pay the money back, but it is on very beneficial, very good conditions seen from the poor third world countries' standpoint. So when China is working together with Africa, it's a huge benefit for Africa, and we will see in the future Africa will go through a development that is maybe not as fast and effective as the development in China, but the same kind of development in the same direction. So there are 6 reasons why China will succeed and USA will not succeed. The only reason they are in the front now is because they were on the winning side in First World War and in Second World War. And since then they have placed their military all around the world, and they try to control and suppress any kind of opposition. That is why they have kept the front place when it comes to economic development. But this time will soon be over, and therefore I hope that Denmark will change once again, because we don't want to stick to a loser, and USA is a loser. USA will be even more a loser in the future. In the future, if you want to win, if you want to benefit yourself in your own country, you have to work together with the future winning country. And the winning country is China. But China, remember, they have alliances. They have one alliance called SCO. They have another alliance called BRICS. And these alliances, they cover around, at the moment, 50% of the population in the world. Remember, NATO is only covering 15%. So at the moment, 2019, China has alliance partners covering 50% of the population in the world, but USA has only 15% of the world. So that will give you another insight in what will be the future. The future will be China. China will be the coming winner. Thank you for listening.